All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving deep and mapping out the world according to Elon Musk. This is all based on a recent, really long conversation, and we're going to connect the dots between all of his big ventures, from social media and satellites, all the way to the future of work and, yeah, the very fabric of reality itself. Let's get into it.
So we've broken this whole thing down into 5 parts. We're going to start with the future of information, then move on to connecting the entire planet, and then, get ready, we'll talk about the end of work as we know it. From there, we zoom out to the big philosophical idea behind it all, our collective consciousness, and we'll end with our place in the universe. It's going to be a ride.
Okay, first up, the future of information. Now for Musk, the platform he calls X isn't just another social media app. Not at all. He sees it as a tool with a much, much bigger purpose, to completely change how all of humanity communicates.
And to really get what he's going for, you have to understand the sheer scale we're talking about here. We're looking at a platform with somewhere around 600 million people using it every single month. That is a huge chunk of everyone on the internet, all gathered in one digital place.
So you got to ask, why buy it in the first place? Well, according to Musk, his main reason was that he saw a political imbalance. He felt the platform, which is based in San Francisco, was pushing a very specific viewpoint, and his stated goal was to bring it back to what he calls a balanced and centrist global town square. And this is where it gets interesting, because there's a real tension in his vision for X. On one hand, he totally gets that the internet is moving powerfully towards video. But at the same time, he believes the platform's real highest value is still in text, where the thinkers and writers hang out. So the big question is, how do you balance those two things?
And all of this builds up to a concept that's way bigger. For Musk, the end game isn't just about making money from ads. It's about building a collective consciousness. Just imagine a platform where automatic translation lets every single person on Earth merge their thoughts into one giant global conversation. The idea is that it would make us as a species collectively way, way smarter.
Okay, but a global consciousness needs a global connection, right? You can't have one without the other. And that brings us perfectly to part 2, connecting the planet. This is the whole reason Starlink exists.
So how in the world does Starlink give you high-speed internet from space? Well, this chart explains it all. Starlink satellites are way down in low Earth orbit, about 550 kilometers up. Now compare that to the old-school satellites at a whopping 36,000 kilometers away. That much shorter distance is absolutely key, because it slashes the time it takes for the signal to travel, which means less lag for you.
And get this, these satellites are not just floating up there. The whole network is zipping around the Earth at about 25 times the speed of sound. It's just an incredible piece of engineering to keep that network running and passing the signal from one satellite to the next without you ever noticing.
Now, it's really important to know where Starlink shines. It is not trying to replace the fiber internet you have in a big, crowded city. It just can't handle that density. Instead, its satellite beams are perfect for places with very few people. The rural areas and remote spots where traditional internet just can't go. Think of it as filling a gap, not competing head-to-head.
And because of that design, the system is incredibly tough. I mean, if an undersea cable gets cut or a hurricane knocks out all the cell towers, Starlink just keeps on working. It's a literal lifeline for the most remote people on the planet, and it's there for them right when they need it the most.
So, we've connected the world digitally and physically. Now we're going to take the next giant leap into AI and the future of the economy. And this is where Musk's predictions get really wild, questioning the whole idea of having a job. I mean, this is the question, isn't it? It's on everyone's mind, and for a lot of people, it's a source of some serious anxiety. But Musk, well, he has a totally different take on it. His answer isn't just yes, it's that this leads to something brand new.
And his answer is, wow. He predicts that in less than 20 years, having a job will be optional. It'll be something you do if you feel like it, like a hobby, not something you have to do to survive.
So what does that even look like, a world where you don't have to work? Musk calls this a future of universal high income. The basic idea is that AI and robots will become so good at making things that they create this world of pretty much infinite abundance. A world where anyone can have basically any product or service they could ever want.
So how do we get from here to there? Well, this slide breaks it down. First, you get an explosion in AI and robotics. That leads to a productivity boom like we have never seen in human history. The amount of stuff being made grows so fast that it completely outpaces the amount of money in the world, which causes massive deflation. And at that point, money just kind of becomes pointless.
So if money is obsolete, what's left? what has value. In this kind of future, the only real currency is something based in physics, energy. Think about it. You can always print more money, but you can't just pass a law to create more energy. It's the one true, fundamental building block of civilization. Okay, so we've talked about the what of Musk's future, but now we're going to go deeper and talk about the why. We mentioned that idea of a collective consciousness before. Well, this section is all about how that idea is the philosophical engine driving every single one of these ambitions.
It all boils down to this, doesn't it? The biggest, most fundamental question there is. And for Musk, this isn't just some abstract thing to think about. It is the problem that he is actively trying to solve.
And his whole take on it is really inspired by the author Douglas Adams. The idea is that the universe itself is the answer, but we don't even know what the question is yet. So the ultimate goal for humanity isn't to find the meaning of life, it's to get smart enough to even ask the right questions about reality in the first place.
And that right there gives us the one mission that ties everything together, from X to SpaceX. The goal is to expand the scope and scale of consciousness. Because the logic is, only a smarter, more connected, collective humanity has any shot at truly understanding the universe.
And this is a brilliant way to think about it. A single cell, like an amoeba, has a very, very limited awareness. But you get 30 trillion of those cells working together, and you get a human being. Something completely different and infinitely more conscious. Musk's whole bet is that the exact same kind of leap happens when you connect 8 billion human minds into one collective.
And here is the absolute perfect real-world example. No single person, I don't care how smart they are, knows enough to build and launch a spaceship all by themselves. It's something that is only possible when a huge collection of people coordinate their efforts. That's the power he's trying to tap into, but on a global scale.
This mission to understand the universe leads us straight into our final, and let's be honest, most mind-bending section. Because if your goal is to understand reality, you have to start by asking a really basic question. What even is reality?
And that brings us to the question. You've heard it in sci-fi movies, but for Musk, this isn't just a fun thought experiment. It's a serious argument, based on probability, about what our existence actually is.
And the core of his whole argument is right here. Just 50 years ago, the best we had was Pong. Literally 2 rectangles and a square. Look at where we are today. We have photorealistic, massive online games with millions of players. Now, just follow that line. It seems totally inevitable that we will eventually create simulations that you cannot tell apart from reality.
Okay, so if it's possible to create a perfect simulation, then any advanced civilization would probably create billions or trillions of them. So if you think about it, there would be way more simulated realities than the one original base reality. So just statistically speaking, what are the odds that we're in the one and only original?
And then he adds this other crazy layer to it, a sort of cosmic natural selection. He argues that just like we'd get bored and shut down a boring computer simulation, whoever might be running our universe would do the same thing. This means that interesting things are more likely to happen because a boring universe wouldn't be allowed to exist for very long.
So, whether we're in a simulation or not, we are about to create new intelligences ourselves, right here, right now. And that brings us back to the very practical problem of building safe AI. For Musk, it comes down to building AI on 3 core values, an AI that values truth, beauty, and a relentless curiosity.
And out of those 3, truth is number 1, non-negotiable. He points to the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, where the AI, HAL 9000, goes crazy because it was forced to lie. It was given conflicting orders. For Musk, that's the big lesson. The absolute most dangerous thing you can do is force an AI to lie or to believe things that aren't true.
And this is the big thought we want to leave you with. In a world where we are on the verge of creating minds far, far greater than our own, are these 3 pillars, truth, beauty, and curiosity, the right foundation to build on? Are they enough to make sure we get a future that's not just safe, but one that actually continues this grand quest to understand our universe?